Good morning, church. It's Lacey, and I'm coming to you this morning with an exciting news. We are actually going to be able to be back in the building tomorrow. I know that we're all super excited about it, and so I just have a little bit of information for you and some guidelines that Pastor Brett has asked for me to share. And so that's what we're going to do this morning. I'm going to try not to keep you very long, but I'm just going to jump right into it. I have some notes in front of me to keep me on task, and so here we go. First of all, we are going to be having two services still in the mornings, one at 9:30 and one at 11. This is so that we can keep the numbers down in each service, so there's less people in the building at one time. I know before we separated our services as in age, and Brett has not actually gone back to that, but we want you to keep those guidelines in mind. So our 9:30 service is focused toward those that may be compromised with their immune system, or they're older. If you want to go to that service, you don't have to be older, but if you feel more comfortable with less people, there are less people at our 9:30 service, we're able to spread out more, please come to that service. If you like the 11 o'clock service and you want to come to the 11 o'clock service, that's fine. We're not putting guidelines on people having to go to certain services, but we do want to remember that we need to stay as separate as possible, and if we can get some to split up and go to different services, it will help us social distance better. So keep that in mind. If you can come to the 9:30 service, if you can come to that first service, we do encourage that. So 9:30 and 11. Also, don't forget that tonight is the time change. The time change before you go to bed, make sure you set your clock back an hour. We want you to be on time in the morning. And so just don't forget about that. I'm going to jump right into things that we've done around the church and just some expectations that Pastor Brett has for us as we're coming back in. So just bear with me. First of all, the church has been sanitized. Pastor Brett had someone come in and spray all surfaces that could be sprayed, and also Sister Henrietta's been working very hard to make sure that everything's cleaned, and he also had a company come in that installed what are called scrubbers in the air duct, and that just helps take particles out of the air, bacteria out of the air, and so he's doing everything that's possible to get us back in the building and be safe. We've also taken chairs out of the sanctuary to social distance a little bit more, to separate us. We know that that's important. Social distancing is not just something that we're hearing about in the church. We hear about social distancing everywhere we go. And so that is super important. Also, when you come into the building, when you first get here, we are going to ask that you continue to wear a mask. If you're walking around the building at all, walking to the bathroom, walking back to your seat, we ask that you do wear a mask while you're walking around. If you're coming into contact face-to-face with people that you might have to speak with, then we ask that you do wear a mask. When you sit down in your seat and you're going to be there for the service, then of course, if you would like to take it off, then you're more than welcome to do that. If you do not feel comfortable taking off a mask, that's completely fine, and we understand that. There will be no shame of anyone in the church that is wanting to wear a mask. If you are more comfortable doing that, we want you to do that. We want you to be safe, and we want you to feel comfortable in our church. And so Pastor Brett wants you to know that please, if you want to wear a mask, please do so the whole time you're there. When you're leaving the building, we ask that you stand up, place a mask, and exit the building in whatever way that our ushers are guiding you to do so. We know that some of this is not fun. It's not fun for us either. We would like to just come in and worship how we feel free to, but we have to use wisdom during this time, and that's what Pastor Brett is asking us to do. And of course, we're going to adhere to that. Not just Pastor Brett, but of course, state officials are asking that of us. And we can't even go into the grocery store right now without a mask on, and I think it's wise. And so we just need to pay attention to those regulations, and that's what we're doing there at the church. We will be, like I said, social distancing. That is, 6 feet apart. Understand when you're passing people, walking by people, that's not possible sometimes, but we ask that you don't congregate in the foyer and talk. We're also going to ask that of our the people who are serving. You know, a lot of times we can get complacent with things, but we're not going to be standing in groups talking. We ask that you stand 6 feet apart if you're talking to someone. You know, you might not be affected very badly by some illnesses, but others may be. So we have to keep in mind that we're not only social distancing for our own selves, but we're social distancing for others around us. So we ask that you don't congregate in the church. We ask that you don't congregate in the parking lot. We know that once you walk out the building and you're standing in the parking lot, the first thing everyone thinks about is taking off their mask. But if you can get into your vehicle with your mask on and not congregate in the parking lot, that should help also keep, you know, the chance of anything spreading, you know, smaller. We're not just worried about COVID. I mean, that is our main concern, but we're also worried about the flu season. We are entering flu season, and so we don't want anyone to contract COVID. We don't want anyone to contract the flu right now. And so Pastor Brett is just trying to be as cautious as possible. So make sure you're social distancing. Also with that, we ask that you have no contact with anyone, you know, while you're at the church. No fist bumps, no high fives, no handshakes, and definitely no hugging. I know it can be difficult during times like this. We want to be close to one another, and Pastor Brett understands that, and I'm sure y'all understand that too, but at this time, we're going to ask you not to have any physical contact with one another. I know that we had, you know, before things, we were beginning to think that, you know, things were passing, and of course we've seen that that is not the case, and so we're just going to jump back in and be more wise about the way we do things. And so please remember, if you're standing around congregating, or if an usher or one of the leaders in the church does see you shaking hands or hugging, we will have to ask you at that moment, you know, please don't do that. And I don't think that anyone wants to be put in that situation. And so we're just going to rely on the Lord to give us guidance and wisdom through this time about the things like that. And we know you completely understand where Pastor Brett is coming from and where the guidelines are being set. So moving on, we want to ask anyone that has any kind of illnesses right now not to attend church in person right now. We are super excited about being back in the building, but there are quarantine guidelines that we do have to follow when we were sick and if we get sick in the future. If you have any health issues at all, any underlying health issues, any immunity issues, continue watching online. We encourage you to join us online, and we're going to continue streaming the services that we have. And so we still want you to be with us in spirit. We want to encourage you from a distance, you know, but if you have any issues that you're concerned about, that you think might affect you if you were to get an illness, we want you to be safe and we want you to stay at home. If you have any issues right now, maybe not underlying health issues, but if you have a low-grade fever, we're going to encourage you to stay at home, and we're asking that you do stay at home. If you have allergies, I know a lot of, whenever I first started getting sick with the coronavirus, it just felt like really strong allergies. So if you think you have allergies, or if you have a runny nose, if you have any amount of a cough, or you can't taste or smell, or maybe you taste a metal taste in your mouth. These can all be signs and symptoms of not only COVID, but other illnesses as well. So we're gonna ask that you wait until you're over these to come back into the church to worship in person. Also, if you have some overwhelming feelings of fatigue, dizziness or confusion, chest pain or muscle pain, if you feel sick in any way, please just wait until that passes, or until you can get tested for the virus and make sure that you're not ill. We don't want you to be out and about, you know, while you're sick and it make you weaker. And we also we want to make sure that we don't pass anything to other people. So if you have anything, even if you just think it's normal allergies, we're going to ask that you just join us online for this time. If you have been in contact with anyone that has tested positive for the coronavirus, or if you yourself has tested positive for the coronavirus, we are going to ask that you don't come back in the building until you have done your 10 to 14 day quarantine period. I know that once we got into quarantine in our own home and we were beginning to feel better, we were very tempted to go out. But that quarantine period is it's a strict guideline that we need to adhere to, not only for the church, but also for the community around us. We need to be wise. And so if they're asking you to, if you've been close to someone that's been diagnosed, or if you yourself has been diagnosed, we need for you to stay at home for that quarantine period until you're completely free. And of course, if there's anything that you need during that quarantine period, because in our home, we didn't even go to the grocery store, so we ordered groceries. If there's anything you need during that time, please reach out to us. We want to stay as close as possible through this and be there for one another. And so, of course, if we can help you with anything during that time, please reach out to us and let us know. I wanted to say also that when you are coming into the building, I know that before you were used to us taking temperatures, but we're not going to be taking temperatures at the door, and I would like to explain that to you. With COVID, not everyone runs a temperature. And I know in the very beginning, when we were all trying to follow the guidelines that the CDC and the state had set forth, they said if you have a very high temperature, then there's a chance that could be a sign of COVID. My own husband never had, was diagnosed positive with COVID, but he never had a fever. So that's not a reliable source. So we're no longer going to be standing at the door taking temperatures, because that, unfortunately, that's not a reliable system anymore. We have learned that everyone is affected differently, and so we just have to rely on the way we're feeling in our bodies. When we wake up in the morning before my kids go to school, I ask them, does your throat hurt? Do you have a runny nose? We go through the thing before we expose ourselves to other people. And so before you go to church in the morning and in the future, we just ask that you kind of run down that guideline. Do I feel tired? Do I feel dizzy? And if those are all no, then come join us. We also ask that when you are in the building, you keep your hands clean, wash your hands often. Our bathrooms are cleaned in the middle of the services. They are sanitized in the process between the 9:30 and 11 o'clock services. So our bathrooms have been sanitized to the best of our ability. So please feel free to use those sinks in there to wash your hands and keep them clean. We do have several containers of sanitizer throughout our building. Feel free to use that at any time. Bring your own sanitizer if you want to do that as well. Just make sure that you're keeping your hands clean as possible while you are here with us. Also, Pastor Brett just wants you to know that we are just trying to keep everyone safe. That is his main goal. This last month has been very difficult for our church body. And we just want to know that we are doing everything possible to be wise. We want to follow the guidelines set forth by our pastor. We want to follow the guidelines set forth by our state and our government. And I think that I don't think that we're going to have any issues, adhering to these things. These are very simple requests, and I'm encouraging my family to have a good face about it, and let's go into it being positive, knowing that everything that our pastor is asking us to do is for the good of our own selves and for the rest of the body. And so let's remember that and be wise and also be courteous. I know during times like this, it's very easy to get frustrated with guidelines. We have so many conflicting reports, and so we just need to do what we feel we can do to keep each other safe. We love y'all, and we know that y'all love the body. We're a very close church, and that's good, but let's stay close at a distance and keep everyone well. I think that's all I have for you as far as this. these guidelines aren't fun, but Pastor Brett wants to keep the doors open. Every time that we have to quarantine the church and stay out of the building, it's very difficult on him and Shalina. They just want to be with you during this time. We want to be with each other. We want to meet and worship the Lord collectively. We want to hear the word and be able to praise and worship. And so all of these guidelines are helping that to happen. So just make sure that you are ready to go in the morning. We're ready to go. We're ready to see you. We want to be in praise and worship with you, and we're super excited about that. So that's all I have for you today, and I can't wait to see you in the morning. Thank you. Have a great day.